And staying on the story, as investigation into the Facebook Cambridge Analytica data breach gains pace in the United Kingdom and the United States, India was quick to issue a stern warning to Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg. Last week, Information Technology Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad warned Zuckerberg that if there was any theft of data from India, the Indian government will crack the whip. Prasad also claimed that India has a stringent Information Technology Act and Mark Zuckerberg can be summoned to India. But can the Indian government really do that? Well, can the Indian government actually make Mark Zuckerberg depose before it? Some legal experts believe that chances of Mark Zuckerberg personally coming to India to answer questions are very slim. Meanwhile, Facebook has said that it will overhaul its privacy setting tools to allow users more control of the information on the social media website. All right, joining me live from the WION newsroom is my colleague Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Good evening, Palki. The minister says the Information Technology Act is very stringent and he can summon Mark Zuckerberg. Will he actually?
Well, we've spoken to legal experts, Ramesh, and what they tell us is that the Indian government can summon Mark Zuckerberg. They'll have to go to court to get a summons, of course. The Home Ministry will have to make a request to the U.S. Central Authority under the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, and the U.S. is bound to consider this request, but it's not bound to accede to it. So the government can try if it feels so strongly about this case. If Zuckerberg's presence in particular is required, they can ask for him to send a representative. But if they want the man himself, in a pending criminal case in India, the government can compel him to come. All India can do is issue summons to him. Whether he complies to those summons or not is up to him. A parliamentary committee can conduct its own investigation and gather evidence, but it really has no power to summon Mark Zuckerberg. Having said that, I can share with you details of what is just breaking right now on WION. The government has issued a notice to Facebook on the data leak issue, asking it to file a reply by the 7th of April. The Indian government clearly taking it very, very seriously in light of the public reaction that it has seen. And I'm looking at the press release that has been issued from the government. On the 23rd of March, a notice seeking details relating to breach of data from Facebook was sent to Cambridge Analytica, particularly with regard to reports in the media about questionable practices attributed to Cambridge Analytica in their efforts to influence elections. They've sought a response from Facebook and Cambridge Analytica. If I could go into further detail on what this notice says, it basically says, asks questions of Facebook and Cambridge Analytica whether personal data of Indian voters and users was compromised or any other downstream entity in any manner. How was this data compromised? The government of India, of course, evidently taking it very, very seriously at this point.
Indeed. And what exactly can we expect from this notice going forward, Palki?
For the moment, the government is only asking for a reply to be filed by the 7th of April. It's asking both Cambridge Analytica and Facebook to file the reply. It is asking whether Facebook or its related agencies utilize this data. Have they been previously engaged in the manipulation of Indian elections? This has become a huge political story. Yesterday, especially with Mr. Wiley in his deposition before the UK Parliamentary Committee, mentioning the Congress Party, he essentially dropped a bombshell with the Congress Party having to come out in its defense and saying that we were in no way involved with this company. The BJP saying that this vindicates our position that the Congress has tried to manipulate elections in the past. The notice issued by the government also says what protection is available to the data that has been breached, what protection is available to the data that Indian users have shared with Facebook. Remember, India is Facebook's biggest market, and while Mark Zuckerberg has apologized to the Western consumers, he has said precious little when it comes to his market in India. And with elections pending later this year and the general election coming up in less than a year's time, this is going to become a big issue whether political parties, both at the center and at state level, used Facebook data, use companies like Cambridge Analytica to influence your vote and mine.
Right, so as Palki said there, the government has issued a notice to Facebook and asked Facebook to reply to its notice by the 7th of April. And has asked Facebook to explain its questionable practices. So that's the big news breaking here on WION this moment. The government issued a notice to Facebook especially in light of the Facebook Cambridge Analytica data breach scandal that has engulfed the world all around. Coming back to you, Palki, talking about India in particular, we've heard Christopher Wiley reveal details about his company's or former company's operations in India. How much of an impact would you think this would have on the proposed inquiry that the government has imposed or indicated in the notice to Facebook?
What Mr. Christopher Wiley said was in the British Parliament, and he spoke off the top of his head. He said, what I can recall is that we worked extensively with the Congress party. The facts may reveal otherwise, and there are questions being asked of data from the Namo app being shared by with American entities. The Congress party official handled the app, sharing details with someone based in Singapore. So this is all subject to investigation. But politics, we have to remember, Ramesh, is more than anything else a game of perception. Facts take the back seat. It's perception that matters. And with the man at the center of the storm, the whistleblower coming out and saying that we worked extensively with the opposition party, the Congress party, does put the Congress in the dock. It is up to the Congress then to go out and convince voters and consumers, meaning users of Facebook, that their data was not compromised. Having said that, I have to add that if the Congress party used the services of companies like Cambridge Analytica, they did a very bad job of it, because look at their winning record. It's not much to write home about. The government of India, of course, telling Facebook that it has its largest footprint here in India in terms of user base. So proactive measures are being taken to ensure the safety, security and privacy of such large data, user data, and to prevent its misuse by a third party. So the government going on an overdrive, but in terms of laws, India doesn't have stringent laws like the EU, and so questions are going to be asked. But politically, of course, it can be very damaging for the opposition party.
Indeed. Palki, do stay on if you will. But just to bring our viewers up to speed with the latest news breaking here on WION Dispatch this moment, the Indian government has issued notice to Facebook asking it to reply to the notice by the 7th of April. The government asking Facebook to explain some of its questionable practices, especially relating to compromising the users' data on Facebook all these years. And if you're just tuning in, Cambridge Analytica says, and it's confirmed by Christopher Wiley himself, that it has offices in India, headquartered in Lucknow. It has offices in 10 cities or towns in India, and that it was actively involved in projects involving many states across the country, including the 2009 election, the general election in India, the 2010 Bihar election, 2007 UP election, and Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan in the year 2003. So that's the news we are breaking here on WION this moment. The government is issuing a notice to Facebook and asks it to reply to it by the 7th of April. Right, going back to my colleague Palki, who was standing by in the newsroom. Palki, we've heard the minister talking about summoning Mark Zuckerberg. Now, under the Information Technology Act, he can summon him, but is it binding on Zuckerberg if indeed he is summoned?
Well, legal experts say that more than anything else, such statements are just grandstanding by the government. They have to reach out to their voter and say, we are taking a tough position. But if you look at the fine print, if you look at the details, the government of India is in no position to compel Mark Zuckerberg to come out and present his side of the story. But India is a big market, a growing market for a company like Facebook, which has faced PR disasters in the past, including the case of free basics, which Facebook tried to introduce in India back in 2015 and couldn't do so. One assumes that he also shares some sort of an equation with the Indian Prime Minister. They met in the US earlier when Prime Minister Modi visited. So he would not want to alienate a government like the Indian government and put off users in India. Facebook might send a big representative, a senior representative, if not Mark Zuckerberg himself. He's, in fact, by law, not even compelled to depose before the US Congress, but he's doing it because it is a PR disaster that he has to fight, and he has to put his best face forward, and most compelling arguments have to be put forth, and who better than the CEO and the man who started this, Facebook. So Mark Zuckerberg may well choose to depose, but for the moment the government of India has not asked for it. They cannot compel him to, they can ask him to depose. For now, the government has said that Facebook and Cambridge Analytica both have to reply to this notice that has been issued to them by the 7th of April, and they've asked very, very specific questions about user data, about what kind of protection this data enjoys from these tech tech companies and whether elections were manipulated by these companies.
Indeed, as you say, Palki, a lot of questions remain unanswered, and the last word probably has not been said yet on this controversy. On that note, Palki Sharma Upadhyay, thank you so much for joining me on WION Dispatch.